Hey, Grandma here. This video is about the code part 2 for writing the Rails, which is about the on-chat commands that actually launch the program. Now this is a picture of the entire code that has everything grayed out that's not part of the on-chat commands. We are going to be talking about these on-chat commands, and there are many. Notice there's one for each mob type, and that you might want to use in writing the Rails. There are some that are not including, like will not stay in the minecart if you actually get them in there, but you can add them if you want to. Then there's this little group of on-chat commands that are really just a shorthand way of running the run on-chat command that has 2 parameters. And you use these to specify animals, which means you would run all the animals in order. So each mob spawn would be, like the first one would be a chicken, the second would be a pig, the third one would be a cow. And that order is determined by the arrays in which the animals are stored, which I will talk about in the next video. Actually, it's 2 videos from now. Then it also you might start it with animals underscore random, which means the animals would be selected randomly from the array. And then that would give you some surprises. Similarly, there's a command called monsters, a command called all, which does all the monsters and all the animals. And then there's an on-chat command called selected, which gives the user the absolute ultimate power in writing their own function that selects the mobs. And we'll talk about that a little later. Now, in designing writing the Rails, I had a goal that's pretty common in programming. One is that for new players, I wanted it to be really easy to use, so that all they had to do was walk up to the program and type in, for example, llama. And then the program would start. It would build a new rail, and then by right-clicking at the spawn position, you get llamas, and you're going to get llamas from now on until you start the program again. And so now let's start it again with Vindicator. Okay, now we're going to build a new rail, and now we're going to get a Vindicator every time we do a click to start a new mob in the minecart. Okay, you get the idea. Now, we also wanted to be able to, so here's animals, random. Now you get animals, all the animals that are in the array, and that they're going to be in random order. You never know quite what you're going to get. Yep. So from now on, you're going to get animals. Similarly, you can get monsters. And you could have done monsters random, but let's just do them in order. Oh, that guy will never move off the track to allow me to put another one there. So I'm going to put a minecart there, which will start him, and then I can put another one. Hey, there's the Vindicator. And then I think we're going to get Evoker next. Come on, move. Okay, yay, spider. Okay, you get the idea. Now, so for new users, it's just really simple to select the mobs that you want to use. Like all random gives you mobs that might be an animal or it might be a monster, and they're going to be random. Woo! Okay, bad. That's bad. Move. I don't know if that was going to move, so I'll put a minecart there to start him. You know that, well, that's interesting. Oh boy, these monsters are not good at starting themselves. Well, there's a little parrot. Parrots absolutely love to ride the rail. Okay, you get the idea. So now, let's look in a little more detail at the on-chat commands that do all this. First, the on-chat commands are all the same. I mean, the ones for individual mobs are all the same. Here is parrot, for example. It sets the mob to add, which is a variable, to an animal, which is, sure enough, parrot. Okay. Then it calls the function run one mod type. Now, all of these do exactly the same thing, except they set the mob to add to be a different animal or monster. And then they all call the function run one mod type. That little function is here, and it sets the number of each mob to add to 1. Now, what if you wanted to have 5 chickens on your rail? Well, it's really only necessary to set this to 1 because the array, whatever's in the array, is used over and over and over again. Then this function calls init beginning, and then it calls add one mob type to the spawn list. And I'm going to explain those in later videos and posts. Now, next is the on-chat commands that start, that, for example, will specify all animals, all monsters in random order, or all random. Now notice that these each do the same thing. They run the on-chat command run with a parameter. For example, all random has parameters 3 and 1. And that's because this run command over here, which you could also use if you can remember what num1 and num2 means. It's much easier for me to remember these. Of course, I'm 76 years old, so maybe your memory's better than mine. So the run chat command it sets this variable called the mobs to spawn list creation method, and that variable is used later in a way that I will explain. And it also has a default if it's out of range, and then this it can be between 0 and 3, and obviously that corresponds to selected, animals, monsters, and all. All would be 3. Okay, you got it. See, 3 is the first one. The second parameter is whether or not they're going to be random. So it just sets a Boolean variable to true or false depending on whether or not it's going to be random. It then calls init beginning and mob to spawn list by method, which means the mobs are put in the list by whichever method had been selected, and then it prints out the information about the mobs that were selected. Now, I think that is about all there is to say about which on-chat commands that start the program. Simple to code. They take up an awful lot of room in the code, and that's why I stack them so neatly here, because if I didn't stack them up like this, they would just take up way too much room. And I only use this stacking method when they're really, really, really similar functions or on-chat commands. And so I guess that is all I have to say about that. I hope you will see the other videos or other parts in this series. Bye.